Hey everybody, I'm Timber from Beartooth Sewing. You might recognize me from my other channels on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. It's just Timber. And today, let's just talk about sewing machine needles for just a minute. So there's a lot of things that can affect your sewing and the quality of your stitches and how well your seams hold together. And most people don't realize that the machine needle plays a really big part. There's several reasons why. Number one, it has a specific shape so that when the thread goes through it, it glides just very nicely down the front, what we call kerf in the shaft of the needle. And if it's not in properly, that can affect your sewing. So if you look at this needle on the shank here, you'll see that there's a flat spot on the back. Now, with many sewing machines, that shank, when it goes in, the flat spot goes toward the back of the machine. There are some machines that it will go toward the side. You just have to read through your user manual and figure out which way yours goes. So always make sure that your needle is in the correct direction. So another thing that can affect your sewing is the thickness of thread that you're using. And when these needles come, they come in certain different sizes, like 65, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 125. And that is the size of the needle as well as the size of that little tiny hole right in the front there. And so the thicker your thread, the larger needle you're going to want to use. If you are sewing on different kinds of fabrics, so typically for wovens, if we're looking at like denim or cotton or anything like that that's woven, you can use usually a regular universal needle. Sometimes a jeans needle or a leather needle if you're going through thicker materials. Now, if you're using a knit, you'll want to use a ballpoint needle because that needle goes between the threads on the knit versus piercing them. If you're using a woven, you want the sharper one that'll pierce it. So there's a lot of different kinds of needles. We won't go too much into detail with those right now. We'll do that at a later date. But the other thing to remember is that you want to change your needle about every 8 to 10 hours of sewing. So the reason for that is because the tip of your needle will dull. And if this gets dull, it's not going to pierce the fabric well, it's not going to drag that thread through where it needs to be, and oftentimes it'll end up either causing your thread on the bottom to nest, or you might end up with skip stitches. And one trick that I use is I sew on a Bernina, so it holds a lot on the bobbin. So I usually replace my needle about every 2 bobbins. On the other ones that have a regular class 15, you know, the plastic round bobbins, those ones, about every 4 to 5 bobbins you want to replace your needle. So if you don't replace your needle frequently enough, it will affect your sewing. So again, every 8 to 10 hours of sewing, or on a Bernina every 2 to 3 bobbins, or on the other machines every 4 to 5 bobbins, something like that. So please, for the love of having all the seams in the world holding together, change your needle. Stay sharp, keep your needles sharp, and happy sewing.